Welcome back to Sun, Sand, and Soul. I'm Josh Dummey with David Haber, joined again by Salim Chraibi. Salim, we left off talking a little bit about, a competitor or somebody who was coming into this market. And it was really my way of saying, if you were coming into this marketplace right now with the same concept, instead of 2018, it's 2025. How would you look at things differently? What has changed over the last 7 years that would now be more of a barrier to entry, and maybe make it, unfeasible at this point?
Well, so the barriers of entries are definitely much higher today. Land is the number one barrier of entry. So when
they're not making more of it.
I know. When we started in 2018, like I told you guys earlier, we're doing mainly spot lots, and we would buy for a single family home. We'd pay between $20,000 and $30,000 a door. Today, you cannot find anything for less than $200,000. So
doesn't exist. Yeah,
you would need much more capital, right? And yeah, so that's
$200,000 for a lot.
10x.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
10x.
So if you go
in 7 years,
yeah, if you go on Zillow now and you go look at inner cities, you won't find anything on the market for less than $200,000 to $300,000 a door, which is crazy. And so that, I think, is the main barrier of entry. Is you need much more capital, right? And it's difficult to raise capital when you're just starting. Versus when you're with 20, 30,000, you can probably get friends and family and start a couple of homes and
just from a market capacity to say your market's that much smaller now, because you're saying even if you could get the capital, are they going to want to write the check when they say, where are you buying this?
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the main challenge today, is the land.
So if that's the case, we talked a little bit earlier about, potentially your pivot into Broward County, Palm Beach County. And there's some similarities and some differences, but I'm actually more curious about what the rest of the state of Florida looks like to you. Florida has, as a state, enjoyed, an economic and population explosion. As you talked about, Miami-Dade actually losing population. We've seen a lot of other parts of Florida actually gain significant population since the pandemic. What would be some of the other areas that would be potentially high on your list if we were flashing forward another 7 years? If it was 2032, what do you imagine some of those landing spots could be?
I think today Port St. Lucie has great opportunities. They call it
Jupiter.
Jupiter is great.
Vero.
Yeah. Fort Myers.
All up and down the east and west coast.
What would be fascinating is listening to actually his answer about where he would be going. I appreciate your input.
I was showing how smart I am.
I agree with you 100%. They call Port St. Lucie the affordable housing program of Palm Beach, right? I don't know if you knew
That's interesting.
Yeah, but Port St. Lucie has been growing at a tremendous rate in the recent years. And then if you go to the West Coast, it's also been growing. But we're really focused in Miami-Dade, Broward, and we're going to be soon focusing in Broward and Palm Beach, because we feel like the need here is so big, and we're local. We know the market really well. We know the rules, the zoning laws, and all the little tricks really well, so that
the idiosyncrasies of this very unique marketplace.
Exactly.
Right.
So we're going to take advantage of this market here before we go elsewhere.
I'd love to hear, as a developer, your comparison. Compare and contrast, as we used to say in school. Compare and contrast Miami-Dade to Broward, because I always find the dynamic very interesting. I personally find Miami a little more similar to Palm Beach County, and Broward tends to be an outlier in certain ways, both politically and demographically.
Correct.
How do you see Broward versus Miami-Dade?
I think Miami-Dade is definitely a different market than Broward. I think, it's a much more Hispanic market. So I think when you build, you have to keep that in mind. This is why we also do a lot of duplexes, right? Because Spanish families, they tend to live together. They get an FHA loan.
Some cultural differences.
Correct. So there's definitely cultural differences.
My wife would never let the kids leave if she had her brothers.
Right?
Which is put another floor on your house and they'd all be living there now.
They would now.
Which is very different than Broward. So, but overall, we're all facing the same affordability challenges. And then Palm Beach even more so, right? People are getting priced out even more in Palm Beach. So that's why I think Palm Beach is going to have to find solutions west, and Dade is going to have to find solutions south.
Admittedly, I don't know enough to be qualified to make this statement, but it strikes me that there is more agriculture in Miami-Dade than there is in Broward and Palm Beach, and maybe less opportunity in conversion from a zoning perspective that way.
Correct.
Does that limit Broward and Palm Beach, or does it actually make it easier because there's more substantive conversion that has to take place?
No, I think there's still land west of Palm Beach and west of Broward.
There's a lot of land.
Correct. There's definitely a lot of land. But
that are not used for horse farm.
There is a lot of NIMBYism there, even more so than we have in South Texas.
Yeah, because they have in Palm Beach, you have
Wellington
you have the 5 acre farms and the horse farms, and you have 5 acre houses with big houses out west that people started building 10, 20 years ago when they said, I'm not going to live east of US 1. I'm going to go out and get a big piece of land in a beautiful community. And they were spending, $700,000, $800,000. And now the houses are worth $2.5 million.
Exactly. Same story in Delray, same story in Davie, same story in all those areas. Wellington. I mean, there's such Southwest Ranches.
Yeah, all of them.
So it's it's the same NIMBYism, but in a different way.
Right. And so again, with those challenges sort of baked into the recipe, and it sounds like you've figured that out at least to a great degree already. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the modeling for Bluenest itself. First of all, I just have an easy one is where'd the name come from?
So I was looking for something that was easy to remember, simple. Blue, blue in Morocco.
It's my favorite color.
Yeah, it's my favorite color too. It's also the color of prosperity. It's the color of seriousness, and it's blue color, right? Mm. And nest is like a home like a nest. So I thought it could be a cool name. It was, easy to remember, and this is where the name.
That's great. That's an easy.
I have a question. About what it's like to work with your brother. We had Jimmy Tate on, and he works with his brother. What's it like to work with your brother?
Working together made us much closer. Right. So
is he older or younger?
Younger. So in the beginning, it was very challenging first few months but then when you find your space and they found their space and you can work with somebody that you can fully trust, it's amazing. Right. So working together definitely made us much closer. You also stuck working 14, 16-hour days and usually don't have time to talk to family during those times. But when you work with your brother, because you're working together, you have time to talk to them. So it actually made us much, much closer. So.
Nice.
And it sounds like he wades a lot in the technology space.
Which is, I like the concrete stuff much more.
Right.
And so we complete each other really well.
Right. You got the hard hat, he has the headset. Is that the way it works?
Exactly.
So to that end, how is technology, I mean, you've clearly articulated the way in which you're creating, sort of some predictability around finding land and, what's going to be the most economical. How else has technology informed what you do?
Information systems are really important today. I mean, what you used to do on paper, you do on everything on the computer right now. So from BIM modeling to you have everything.
What's BIM modeling?
So basically, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it would be like a digital version of your plans where you could
you can say exactly how many square feet of drywall you're going to need for an entire development by pressing a button.
Exactly, which is great, right? Same thing from land development all the way to warranty. You can have everything integrated in one system, makes your life much easier, makes you get reports much faster.
Are you all like Procore users during construction?
We implemented a software that's built on Microsoft Dynamics. Okay. Procore turned out to be built much more for GCs. We've always had the challenge where we couldn't find a software that was either for developers or GC, or people doing both, right? So it was either Procore for GC or something else for a developer.
Call Coulter, I'm sure they have one.
Right.
Well, we built something built on Microsoft Dynamics that pretty robust, and we really like it.
So putting that then aside, talk to us a little bit about how this economic model works for you behind the scenes. Okay. We've understood how the financing works for the potential buyer. How does it work for you? How are you able to get financing, and how are you able to demonstrate? I mean, obviously now you have some history. You've got 2,500 units that you've developed successfully, but how has that evolved, and what kind of modeling do you have to do to really get that support?
So number one, we don't get bank financing today because they request much higher deposit than what we're getting, and they request 60% pre-sale. So a bank is going to request you to get 5% at signature, 5% at concrete pour, 5% at rooftops, and that's not the model we're going for. So we have two models. Number one is private lending, so private markets that we raise money from, and they do the construction loans like horizontal and vertical. And number two is county programs that do construction financing as well. So this is really how we finance ourselves. So it's equity for land, and then construction loans come from private institutions.
What percentage of your financing is from the government, Miami-Dade County, versus private lenders?
So we are exploring Miami-Dade County financing for the first time now. Actually, most of everything that we've built so far has been with private financing, and we've made it work. So we're very excited to start financing with Miami-Dade County because those are much lower interest rates than what we're used to already.
And have you qualified to work with the county? Is there like
yes.
There's got to be a registration process, I presume, and so there's certain criteria.
Correct. So you need to score a certain amount of points, right? So we have to have built at least 50 homes to the program in the last 4 years. be able to demonstrate financial capabilities of building the project, owning the land, getting it approved. So we've qualified through.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And has the county have found by and large to be supportive of the effort?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we had Mayor Levine Cava on, and she was really pushing the issue of the county providing the ability to assist with this affordable housing.
I think the county is doing a great job. I think more developers can come and contribute to the workforce housing for sale. I think there's such a big need that the sun is shining for everyone in this market. But I think the county in itself, they're doing a great job. And the mayor has been amazing. She's been really pushing.
She's a big proponent.
She is. And I think it's a very, very critical problem that Miami-Dade County has.
I have a series of questions that have nothing to do with your company.
Okay.
And they have nothing to do with the county. I call it rapid fire, and you just have to answer the question.
Okay.
By the way, this is very experimental, so we'll see how this one works this time.
Let's do it.
I thought it was good last time.
It was, although Jimmy, so it was a little more predictable.
right.
But we're gonna see how this goes.
Italian or sushi?
Italian.
Dolphins or Panthers?
Dolphins.
Favorite place to travel?
Morocco.
Okay, that's. Can you make couscous?
No.
What's your favorite Moroccan food?
Couscous.
You might want to learn.
I know. You don't want to eat my food.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Red or white?
Red.
Okay.
Come on, it's Mediterranean. Let's be real here.
Well, I mean, I just had to ask. And I already got your favorite color is blue.
Yep.
I got one more. I just have to pull it out. No, I think we're good right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go wild card on the sports side. Let's just see where we wind up here. If you and I can be friends in the future.
Absolutely.
Red Sox or Yankees?
Red Sox.
All right. See, now we're in good shape.
You just lost me.
Salim, I'd like to start our wrapping up with you by talking about what your future looks like. And again, putting sort of the Broward Palm Beach expansion aside, what does success mean for you and for Bluenest? Is it just more of what you've done? Is it diversification? Is it a different level of community building? I was very interested to hear about some of your potential expansion into commercial, into charter schools. It sounds like community horizon is important to you. What does success look like for you over the next 5 or 10 years?
So for the communities, I mean, we're really focused on residential. We're only bringing a commercial part to please the community we're building in. But we love residential. We love home ownership. Success, I think, is bringing more communities to life. And I love what I do. I call it a good karma business.
Yeah,
so
you're helping people.
Correct. You go home at night, you don't have people like wishing you bad stuff. Like you meet people that it's their biggest purchase of their life. Most people you meet are really happy. I really generally love
You get thank yous.
Exactly, you do. And so
long as you build a quality product.
Which we do.
Yeah.
So I think, that means a lot. It's not just, we're out there doing something that like people don't want. We're actually bringing something of value and really helping people achieve the American dream. So I think doing more of it and then, being more mindful also of other things like, you're not just business. Sometimes I tend to be too focused just on my business, but spending more quality time with family, traveling more. As we grow, I'm hoping I'll be able to do more of that. But for now, it's just on a professional level, building more communities and like raising the bar of quality. And also explaining people that workforce does not mean something bad that will happen to your areas, like making people more welcome of the essential workers and the backbone of our communities that need homes.
Are there other organizations or causes that Bluenest is particularly in support of?
We're in support of a lot of the, essential workers, the hometown heroes, the police cadets, the firefighters. Not only are they our clients, but I think what they do is super important for the community. So,
amen to that.
Exactly.
I'm sure you've had quite a few first line folks move into your communities.
Absolutely. And we were, happy and lucky enough to sponsor the Hometown Heroes Parade last year.
Oh, that's great.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and we hope to be able to do it next year as well. And that's something that's really close to, our heart. And on top of that, like I said, there are clients. So it's like the best possible mix between marketing and charity for us.
Right.
So
Josh, ask what your final question always is.
What's that?
If there's one thing.
Oh, you mean as in like my normal wrap up question. Like then I got two. So I got one more about you, and then I got my ubiquitous wrap up question.
Ubiquitous. I can't spell it, but I know what it means.
That's a good one, isn't it? I think, there's always, you sort of alluded to it earlier, there's always this idea of the big bad developer, that developers are often villainized. Clearly, you're taking a very different approach about that. It seems to be like there's a real win-win going on. Why do you think this isn't done more? And not to say that you don't have not to say that you don't have a unique.
I hate to say you asked the better question today, but that is the best question.
It just seems like there is such a clear win-win here. It surprises me that this is, frankly, and like I've spent the last 20 years of my life in real estate. This is a really impressive model, and I'm interested to know why I haven't seen it before.
I mean, I've gotten into it naturally because I saw a need, and I think that every business should solve a problem, right? But I think that there's a lot of attraction for developers to keep rental properties. I mean, fiscally, it's much more interesting.
Taxes, all
of that. And,
are there other developers doing 1%?
None.
I've never heard of this.
Nobody.
And nobody in Broward and Palm Beach is doing
I don't know about Broward and Palm Beach.
Well, you're about to find out because you're going there.
So far, nobody. And so, this is
so why do you think they're not? Why do you think you're the only one who came up with this brilliant idea?
I mean, that's a question you have to ask them. But like I said, I think a lot of people want to keep rentals, right?
Yeah.
We're really focused on a home ownership model. And the way we've made it work is turning the communities fast enough that we're profitable with the volume we bring in. So, I mean, again, I know people that could do it. I know of other developers that could do it. Is it greed? Is it, I don't know.
So you don't make as much.
I was going to say, let me ask the adjunct question, which is, could you be making more money?
If you did a different type of development.
I mean,
maybe you could be using deposits to build, paying less interest, so being maybe more profitable, but we also would not be selling at the pace at which we're selling, right? So maybe other builders, like national builders, they don't need to sell faster because they're self-funded. They don't get construction loans. They don't need to pay back their construction loan fast enough. And it works for them to, even if their sales are a little slower, they still save money because, they build with deposits and they don't have to pay interest to lenders.
Right.
But for us, it's been working. So,
well, then I will give you my ubiquitous wrap-up question.
I have to tell you, I love this question. Not as much as
he's getting nervous. He's getting nervous though now.
It's not as much as Italian versus sushi, but it's still good.
Yeah, it not as much hinges on that.
Right.
If you could change one thing about this marketplace, if you could change one thing about where we are right now in South Florida real estate, what would it be? Anything.
Less zoning restrictions.
Okay.
And less environmental restrictions for people building workforce. I think there has to be, zoning is doing a great job, but other departments have to come in play to let us build. And so, this whole septic issues and just being more mindful of the cost that you're bringing to play when you're changing law.
But do you agree that when you're building on the edge of the Everglades, it factors in, and when you're building in South Florida with the water table and all of the environmental concerns, it is different than if you're building in the middle of Kansas?
Absolutely. 100%.
It's just where we are. It's like, as you said about getting rid of the topsoil and raising everything 12 inches, it's the cost of doing business down here.
It is 100%.
And as another adjunct, do you feel like because of the pace of development in South Florida, that county agencies have not been able to modify their own behavior and departments fast enough to really keep pace with the kind of development that's necessary? I hear that a lot. I hear that they're not big enough or they're not quick enough to sort of change direction with where we are now.
No, I think they're doing a pretty good job overall. It's difficult to keep up with the pace of development for sure, but I think agencies are doing a good job. I think that we also have to understand the other side, which is what I was talking about zoning earlier. For me, when you're building a townhouse project in an area where you have half an acre homes, it's not that big of a difference. You're talking 2-story townhomes. You're not talking 50-story high rises. And it's just, we have to make it clear to people that this is not going to change their whole lifestyle and the way they live, but it's going to solve a problem that is needed. And what I was mentioning about zoning is if there were ways to change that zoning, that land use, in a way that is faster, as long as you build a workforce housing, it would make our job easier. But, overall, it's perfect nowhere, and we've been able to make it work. And I think the county overall is doing a really good job. Now, there are other municipalities that are much more difficult to work with than the county. So this is why most of our project, 99% of our project, are in my immediate county.
Right. Salim Chraibi, it's been great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for all your insight on your work and with
continued
Bluenest.
Good luck in all of your development
Thank
work.
you so much. Thank you, guys.
You've been listening to Sun, Sand, and Sold. I'm Josh Tomey, as always, with David, the Hawaiian shirt Haber. I'm just going to be, at least for the end of this episode, that you're probably watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, Apple Music, or one of your favorite streaming or social media platforms. Join us again next time. We've got a lot of great guests coming up and look forward to seeing you again.